Okay, everyone, welcome to UFTA Premium, and I have a further interesting topic to talk about, and that is the notion of a three-tiered reward system with the adversity cards. This is kind of an experimental thing. I'm not sure if it'll go in the final product or not, but it feels pretty solid, so I thought I'd introduce that here, right? The three-tiered reward in UFTA is essentially you're turning the adversity cards and giving them a second function, okay? You know, right now these adversity cards, their primary function is, they're a disastrous consequence that you have to deal with in the game, but they're also offensive firepower in the sense that they can be played on others, or they can be withheld as an asset for the final round, where you collect 10 tokens with each passing growing season. Well, they're gonna have a secondary function, like some of the other items in the resource shops have secondary functions. The adversity cards are going to have the secondary function of giving you the ability to perhaps pay for certain items in the resource shop that would be out of your range, if not for the advantage of the cards themselves having a certain financial value. And what is that value? Well, let's figure this out. Right now, as the game stands, when you roll a 2, typical roll the 2, that activates the purchasing of the adversity cards. They cost 5 tokens to purchase. That doesn't change. But what does change is, just like you buy a new car, if you buy an adversity card, the value off of the lot depreciates immediately, right? So I have the card, I bought the thing, and now it is worth 3 tokens, okay? Right? So we would pay 3 tokens for this card. Okay, and so that is the intrinsic value of the card. It doesn't matter how many cards I have, I could have 7 cards, whatever. Their intrinsic value, basically, what is their value at the end of the game? And then what is their value throughout the game? If you want to cash them in for 100 tokens, the value would be 3, okay? So let's say, I have a bunch of cards. It's an activity to do this, by the way. If you want to take the card and redeem it for what its value at the time is, it's only 3 tokens. Now, that's depreciation, right? Now, that situation changes in light of the 3-tiered reward system with the adversity cards. You're asking yourself, well, what is that? Basically, like I said, it's an action to help you make purchases in the resource shop that tend to be out of your financial range. But if you pay for these cards and you make good stewardship of them, you take care of them, then they can pay huge dividends for you, giving you access to certain items faster in the resource shop than you normally would. And so how does this look in action? Well, as I said, you can do the normal thing. You pay for a card. The first card is worth 3 tokens. So what I could do, for instance, if I have one card, I can say, aha, this is worth 3 tokens, and I would like to take up an action on a productive farm roll. Notice that it could only be done on a productive farm roll, and so we're talking rolls 4, 5, and 6. You make the purchase of the card on die roll 2. But you have the card, now I've rolled a 5, right? Here's a 5. So I'm productive on my roll. I want to make a purchase that would normally be outside of my price range, and I'm going to buy something with this card. As I said, one card alone is only worth 3 tokens, and it also gives me access to any item in the essential equipment category, right? 1 token gives me access to any of these items, okay? So if I wanted to, I could say, hey, I want to pay the disc. I'm going to use the card. I'm redeeming it. It's worth 3 tokens. Okay. And then let's say I just want to use a mix and match of my general funds. You know, I have 10 tokens, I have 2 tokens, and then I have 3 tokens here. So I can pay for the disc, all right? So if I wanted to make this purchase, I would do that. But notice how the card itself doesn't get returned to the discard pile like this. Instead, the card is going to get flipped over, and the card no longer has an active status, meaning it can't be played on others. And, moreover, it can't be used for any other reward purchases later in the game. It's a one and done. It also means the card is not in circulation in the adversity card pile, right? It's going to stay on this particular grower's farm for the rest of the game. So I keep it, and I put this money amount on here. Notice that I also take the item, you know, I bought the disc, right? I bought the disc, and so this indicates that I used one card to make the purchase of this particular item, okay? And then, of course, I would pay whatever the amount is, and then I would go from there. All right, so that takes care of the first tier. What's the second tier? Well, when you purchase these cards, they begin to have a cumulative value. The second card, you make the purchase of 5 tokens again. This is still 3 tokens, but now if you have 2 cards like this that are face up on your farm, the value of the second card doubles. You know, so this was the first card, is 3 tokens. The second card is now worth 6 tokens, right? It doubled the amount of the first one, but the purchase reward amount is the cumulative sum of these cards. So you're doubling and then you're adding them together. Okay, so we have 3 originally. This one's worth 6. We combine them for 9. Okay, and now 2 cards are worth a purchase of anything in the beneficial category or below. Notice how the greater the rewards gives you access to better items in the market, but it's also retroactive. It basically means you have access to anything in that particular tier or below. So if I wanted to, I could play 2 cards and then have access to anything in the beneficial category or the essential equipment category. Okay, so that's a very important key concept to understand. So I have 2 cards, for instance. Here's my example. This is worth 3 plus 6, which is 9. And then if I have any general funds, I can pay for something else. So now things get really interesting. In this case, why don't I pay for, I don't know, 9, 14. Yeah, so in this case, I'm going to make a purchase. I have 2 cards. 3 plus 6 is 9. I have another 6, that's 15. So now I can, let's say, purchase the trading house, right? So that's really awesome. And you're asking yourself, well, wait a minute, so what is the benefit of this? Because if I actually spent five tokens on each card, at this particular moment, you could say, well, I'm paying 16 tokens for 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 1. But the difference is, maybe I didn't have enough in the general funds at this particular moment in the game, you know, whatever it was. I only had like, what, 5, 6, 7 tokens, right? But if I include the cards, I actually have more than that, right? If I want to, like I said, redeem the cards for a rewards purchase, I can do that. And that gives me access to the item sooner rather than later in the game. And then, of course, you just, as a player, you have to just figure out, well, was it worth it or not, right? That's the mystery of the game, and that's what I come back for. So I have 3 plus 6 is 9. I had 5 is 14. I got 2 extra tokens. So I'm going to suddenly have access to an item sooner in the game rather than later. So I'm going to make that purchase. It's a trading house, right? Excellent card. So I have that. I'm going to indicate that these cards are spent by flipping them over. I flip them over, then I buy the trading house, and then I pay the difference once again, right? So now I have 2 cards I have 2 cards under here that are deactivated, staying on the farm, no longer in circulation, and indicating that this item, the trading house was spent using these cards, right? So now they're stuck there. Okay, so what happens at game's end, and how do I score that? We'll get to that in a moment. Let's see what happens when we do 3 cards. 3 cards is the highest level of the reward system. There's no benefit beyond 3 cards, but if I have 3 cards, they all have to be face up, of course, and all 3 cards are worth that cumulative value, and they continue to double, right? So for the first item, we doubled and we added a sum. For the third item, we did the same thing. We doubled the second amount, which was 6. It doubles to 12. And then we sum everything from there. So we have 12 plus 6 plus 3, which works out to 21 extra tokens, right? So now my financial situation is different. Now I have access to the highest level of items in the resource shop, and I can purchase anything essentially in the resource shop at any tier level, right? So that's pretty awesome. So what I'm going to do here is, once again, I don't have that much in general funds, but I have a whale of a lot of tokens in this category. So then I'm going to say, well, what can I purchase for 21 tokens, right? Yeah, so at this particular time, I would say, hey, I want to use one of my productive farm rolls to pay for some crop insurance sooner rather than later. I'm going to do that with my 3 cards. It's actually worth 21. In this case, I'm overpaying, right? I got 21 tokens worth sitting here in reward purchases, but over here, I have a card that's only 20 tokens. So what I'm going to do is, I'll pay for it anyway, and then I just get the change from the depository. Okay, and then just like before, we take the item, we flip the cards over. Cards are flipped over like so, and I put the amount on top of there. Okay, and so that ensures I know exactly what happened. Those cards are secured for the rest of the game. They're no longer in circulation, and they were used to pay for this item. Okay. A few other just kind of minor questions that we're going to take care of. What do we do with marker tokens, right? Well, since redeeming cards for reward purchases in the resource shop is an action, it means the same rules apply. You're bringing the card to fruition, right? It's as if I were playing the cards on other people. And so the same rules that apply then apply now, right? So let's look at an example. We have certain token amounts on each one, protecting these cards, right? Because they're assets. But you know what I mean. We're sitting in a circumstance here where we have excess marker tokens, right? We got a 5, we got a 10, we have a 10. We want to free up these cards in order to make a purchase with them. But we find that we're stymied, right? Because it's just like normal. You would lose the tokens if you don't liquidate them. But if you try to make the purchase now, you can't do it on the same turn that you liquidate. Okay, that's always been the case. If you liquidate, you can't play the cards on the same turn. You got to wait a turn. Okay, so in this particular case, I rolled a 5. I'm ready to make this purchase, but I realize, oh my, I'm going to lose a lot of tokens. Look at all this extra stuff, and I can't liquidate them off of there. Okay, so what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to wait a turn, but in the meantime, I'm going to liquidate right now and try to free up these funds as much as I can. Well, right now I can, it's in 5 token increments that you can liquidate anything. So I'm going to take the 5 tokens off of this one and this one. This one is already at the last 5, so that last 5 rule kicks in, and that token stays on there. What do I do with the last 5? Just like in regular gameplay, when I am ready to make the purchase on the next go around, I get to keep those tokens. So always the last 5 tokens you can count on as helping to pay for whatever it is that you want to do. Okay, you get to keep those tokens because the function of the marker tokens has come to fruition. It did its job, and you are rewarded for that particular activity, or whatever you want to call it. You get to reap the rewards of your hard effort, right? And so, anyway, we're going to, since we can't do it on this turn, we're just going to liquidate what we can right now. So we're going to take the 5 off of here, 5 off of here. Those become 5, and then those 5 amounts are put into my general funds. So now, on the next turn, I have a very desirable situation. Everything has been reduced down to the last 5. I'm going to get to keep these tokens, and then on the next turn, when I have another productive farm roll, I am going to redeem these cards. I'm going to pay for something nice, and I'm going to get to collect the last 5 marker tokens on each card, which convert back to hunger tokens. So that is an all-around good deal. You just have to understand how that process works. Never liquidate. You're never allowed to liquidate and play the cards on the same turn. Okay? So once that's clear, everything, the fog of confusion lifts the veil, and then you start to understand exactly what's going on. Okay, so that's how you deal with the reward system in UFTA. The 3-tier reward, it's pretty cool. You don't have to memorize anything, except you just have to understand that the cards, they essentially have a depreciation value at game's end. It's only 3 tokens each, right? But they have a conditional value during gameplay, which allows you to redeem rewards and just essentially use them as hunger tokens to help pay for something. And those values depend on the number of cards and whether or not they're cumulative. So let's look at just one more example. Let's say we've already made a purchase of some sort. Let's say we used 1 card and we bought the disc. Well, if you do that, the rewards start over. You can repeat rewards, not on the same turn, of course, but you can have the same rewards throughout the game. So if, for instance, I buy another single card, this is also, it depreciates to 3 tokens, but it's also worth 3 tokens to be redeemed for something that you purchased in the resource shop. So it's basically it starts over. Then if I get 2 cards like this, it's the same scenario. This particular card is spent, but these are not. So this is worth 3, this is worth 6, cumulatively it's 9, and it gives me access to the 2nd tier of beneficial items in the resource shop or below, anything below. Okay? So that is a pretty cool feature that I've installed. It rocks and or rolls. It plays very, very well, but it's pretty awesome. Okay? Okay, so I think that covers everything having to do with the 3-tiered reward system in UFTA. If you're ever uncertain about anything, just rewind the video, check it out, and yeah, I think you'll find that this adds quite a bit, another level of intrigue, suspense, and really cool and interesting decision making as you make progress in the game and have fun with your friends and family, right? Or whomever, right? Okay, so that's gonna be a wrap for now. Thank you everyone who tuned into this, and do check it out on YouTube. Hopefully, with any luck, we'll get a publisher on board, and we're gonna have some UFTA available for everybody someday. Okay, so you take care, happy holidays, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.